So tell me, I'm curious about what your expectations were about the pregnancy as far as like how it would go, what kind of role you wanted to have before and after the lockdown from COVID.
Yeah, I'll definitely say the lockdown and COVID really changed a lot for us. When we were kind of going into this, Catherine had told me kind of an outline of what she expected from the pregnancy and stuff, and I have friends and family that have been pregnant, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. I expected to be there and be a part of the doctor's visits and, obviously in the hospital room. But once the lockdown started to happen and she started to go to the doctor that she was seeing at the time, we found out that they weren't going to allow me into any of the doctor's visits. And out of our relationship, I'm the one that asks all the questions. I'm the curious one. So it was really hard for us at first, for those first couple months, because I wasn't able to be there to ask any kind of questions or get any kind of sense of anything. I didn't get to see any of the sonogram or anything like that. So we actually started to do some research, probably around 2 or 3 months of her being pregnant, and just looking at some other options. We tried to look at some other OB-GYNs or some other hospitals to deliver at that would give us a little bit more freedom, because really early on, they were telling us, I may not be able to be in the delivery room, or if I was, like our parents or our mothers weren't going to be able to come in, that we'd be in the hospital for probably 2 nights and wouldn't, have any visitors or anything like that. And so that was really big for us, and it really kind of scared us. And so that's kind of what brought our journey. We started to ask some questions and get some other options. And Catherine's boss had delivered a baby, he didn't deliver it, but his wife had a baby a couple of years prior, and he was telling us that they had used a doula. And so we called their doula, and I remember like the phone call with this doula, and I think doulas are great and are needed, but I remember in the call just kind of thinking, well, this seems a little bit too much for me, because I wanted to be involved in the birth process as much as possible.
Yeah.
I felt like I could help Catherine, whether that's through counter pressure or just kind of being a mental coach or whatever. And I almost felt like the doula was going to replace me in that situation, which is not, a good doula is not going to do that. It's just, that's kind of how I mentally took it.
Yeah.
And so we went probably another several weeks after that call, not really understanding what we were going to do or how we were going to proceed. And at this time, she had her, like the big anatomy scan. And this was the first one that I was able to actually go to the hospital with her. And I remember I had to stay out in the hallway. I couldn't go into the waiting room. I couldn't sit down in the waiting room with her. So she got called back. And when they went to go do the actual anatomy scan, they brought me through, and it felt like they were trying to hide me almost. Like they brought me back to the sonogram room. I got to see the sonogram. We smiled, tears, everything of seeing this little girl. And then like within, I was there for probably 10 minutes, and then they shuffled me out of a side door, and I couldn't even talk with her or anything like that. So around that time, we ended up watching the the birth of business, or business of birth,
Business of being born,
business of being born. Yeah. And we both, like, afterwards looked at each other and we're like, we need to investigate the midwife thing a little bit more. And so we made a couple calls, and we ended up finding the perfect midwife for us, Emily. And it was life-changing for us, because we got to, well, first of all, I got to start actually going to the appointments, and instead of a 10 or 15-minute appointment, we're in there for an hour talking with Emily about all of the expectations of being pregnant and of the birth process, and my wife tends to be a worrier, and Emily was just extremely patient, answered every question that she had or any concern, and it just was. Like I said, it was life changing. I'm very thankful for, not thankful for COVID happening, but I'm thankful for the journey that we went through, because we probably wouldn't have gone the midwife route had COVID not happened.
Yeah.
And so we actually feel very blessed that we ended up on the journey we were. So
That's fascinating.